In the previous lectures, we saw the theory of dosha conceptualized by Daṇḍin. The next major theoretician we are going to see vis-à-vis the concept of dosha is Vāmana. When it comes to Vāmana, the idea of dosha becomes an important category. According to Vāmana, the term dosha refers to the absence of gunas. He says, guna viparyatmano doshaha. Vāmana divides the idea of dosha under four major categories, namely pada, padartha, vakya and vakyartha. The term pada refers to word, padartha refers to the meaning of a word, vakya means sentence, and vakyartha means the sentence meaning. Vāmana enumerates 5 pada doshas first. The pada doshas mentioned by Vāmana include asathu, kashta, gramya, apratita and anarthaka. Let's take a look at these 5 doshas in detail. The first dosha is asathu. Asathu is the use of ungrammatical usage. According to Vāmana, the employment of ungrammatical usage can adversely affect the poetic charm. This dosha is very much similar to Bhamaha's Shabdahina. The next pada dosha that Vāmana deals with is Kashta. What is Kashta? Kashta is the employment of words that are not soothing to the ears. This is also called Dushravya. The next dosha is Gramya. Gramya is the employment of words that are uncultured and unsophisticated. It is the use of the popular usages. The next dosha is Apratita. Apratita is the exact opposite of Gramya. It is the use of words that are found only in Shastras. Anarthaka is the use of an avyaya or indeclinable just for the sake of conforming to the metrical pattern of the verse. Vāmana also reminds us that the words that are used for the ornamentation of the sentence will not fall under this category. According to Vāmana, these words, which are used ineffectively for the sake of retaining the metrical pattern in the composition, reveals the lack of the genius of the poets. After this, Vāmana goes on to list the Padartha Doshas or poetic defects pertaining to the meaning of words. According to Vāmana, there are 5 Padartha Doshas, namely Anyartha, Nayartha, Gudartha, Ashlilartha and Klishtartha. First, let's take a look at the dosha called Anyartha. This is a deviation from the Prasiddhartha or the popular meaning of a word. If a poet discards the popular meaning of the word and goes for the obsolete etymological meaning, then the dosha called Anyartha will arise. The next Padartha dosha is Nayartha. If the readers have to guess the meaning of a sentence, then there is the dosha called Nayartha. After Nayartha, Vāmana describes the dosha called Gudartha. What is Gudartha? A word has got 2 kinds of meanings, popular meaning and less known meanings. If the poet uses a word in such a manner that it signifies the lesser known meaning, then the poet is said to have committed the dosha called Gudartha. The next dosha is Ashlilartha. Ashlilartha is the employment of words that can generate obscene meaning in the minds of the readers. Vāmana says that there are 3 kinds of Ashlilatas or indecorous meanings, namely the meaning which gives rise to shame, secondly the meaning which gives rise to disgust, and finally meaning that forebodes evil. Vāmana exempts some meanings from the ambit of obscenity. According to him, if the word generates an obscene sense only through its metaphorical or secondary usage, then it cannot be considered an instance of ashlilata or obscenity. Similarly, some words will drive home to our mind the resonance of some other words that signify an obscene meaning. These words, if they are accepted by the cultured people, also cannot be considered to have the dosha called ashlilata. Finally, Vāmana is of the view that if the ashlilata or the obscene meaning of the word is not so popular, there is no problem in using that particular word in poetry. The next dosha that Vāmana talks about is Kashta. If the meaning of a word is not fully revealed, then it is called Kashta. According to Vāmana, the last two doshas, that is ashlilata and Kashta, are applicable to the vakya or the sentence as well. After explaining these two categories, Vāmana goes on to describe the third category, which is vakya dosha or poetic faults pertaining to the sentence. We have already seen that ashlilata and Kashta are the defects that pertain to the sentence as well. Now, Vāmana talks about the remaining three doshas, which include Bhinnavritta, Yadiphrishta and Visanthi. Yadiphrishta is the poetic fault of deviation from the rules of metrical pose. If the poet starts a verse in one vritta or meter and then changes the vritta in the middle of the same verse, then the poet is said to have committed the dosha called Bhinnavritta. At this juncture, Vāmana anticipates an objection. He says that an opponent may now say that Yadiphrishta and Bhinnavritta are the same. Vāmana says that this is not a correct observation, as the distinctive features of the two are totally different. In other words, the characteristics of meter are entirely different from those of pose or yati. While the meter consists of the arrangement of long and short syllables, the pause consists in the resting of the voice on certain syllables. The next dosha that Vāmana mentions is Visanthi. Visanthi is the cacophony generating from the placing of dissimilar words beside each other in a sentence. According to Vāmana, the dosha called Visanthi arises when the collusion of words is unmelodious or inharmonious in a sentence. After this, Vāmana goes on to explain the Vakyartha Doshas or the poetic faults related to the sentence meaning. The first Vakyartha Dosha that Vāmana mentions is Ekartha. We know that Ekartha is tautology or Punarukti. Vāmana says that this is not a dosha if the poet wants to achieve something special through repetition. After Ekartha, Vāmana talks about Vyartha. Vyartha is the presence of conflicting meanings. Since we have already seen this fault in the previous classes, I do not intend to repeat it again. If a sentence generates confusion with respect to its meaning, then there arises the dosha called Sannigdha. The next dosha is Aprayukta. What is Aprayukta? According to Vāmana, Aprayukta is that sentence where the signification attached to the sentence is purely illusory or imaginary. Although Vāmana says that the examples of this dosha are quite abundant, it does not mention a single one in his Kavyalangara Sutravritti. The next poetic fault is Apakrama. Apakrama is the absence of order. We have already seen this category in detail previously, so I think it does not require further explanation. The penultimate dosha is Loka Virotha. According to Vāmana, that which is opposed to the ordinary conceptions of place, time and nature are called Loka Virotha. Here, under the dosha called Loka Virotha, Vāmana subsumes the other two doshas, namely Kala Virotha and Desha Virotha mentioned by Bhamaha. The last dosha mentioned by Vāmana is Vidya Viruddha. The dosha or poetic fault that he refers to as Vidya Viruddha is the opposition to the dictates in the Shastras. Vāmana opines that any representation of facts against what is written in Shastras will be a blotch on Kavya. To demonstrate the poetic blemish called Vidya Viruddham and warn the poets against it, Vāmana cites a few examples. According to Dharma Shastra, it is to restore justice that kings conquer the world. If a poet says that it is to satiate their material desires that kings win over countries, that will result in a poetic blemish. According to Danda Shastra Nidhi, it is because of a person's prudent conduct and diplomacy that others succumb to him or her. But if someone says that it is the person's aggressiveness that enables him to win over others, then it clashes with the socially accepted norm of Danda Shastra Nidhi and consequently results in the poetic blemish of contradicting Chadurvarga Shastra. He gives another example which is at war with Kama Shastra. According to Kama Shastra, lower lip or Athara is the right place to kiss, not the upper lip or Uttaroshtha. Contrary to this dictum in Kama Shastra, if a poet states that the upper lip is the right place to kiss, then the poet will court a poetic blemish. These are the major doshas mentioned by Vāmana. When it comes to Vāmana, the scope of the idea of dosha slowly gets enhanced. Vāmana connects all the major aspects related to a poem to the concept of dosha. I hope the aspects that we related in this class are quite clear to you. Thank you.